keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch a scenario on stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursuing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio. Thanks for tuning in once again with your host Nick Bernabe here on UCY.tv. Make sure you guys check out UCY and all the other awesome hosts on this channel, because there's a lot of other voices besides us here at the Anti-Media. And of course, I'm joined by my longtime co-host, DB Schwartz. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good, Nick. Just watching basically the destruction of the Euro, and then also the winter storm. Pretty interesting things going on right now.
Yeah, there's some crazy news going on all over the place, and it always seems like things are getting more and more chaotic all around the world. But I don't know. To me, it seems like we are in a shifting paradigm, you know, and a lot of the younger people, I think, are starting to come around to these new live and let live type of ideas, and for that, I'm pretty happy. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, the people that run the show, that run all these corporations, that run all these governments, they're older people, and they're not exactly in touch with the working class youth and the fighting age youth and stuff like that. And so, you know, that's to me one of the biggest problems that we're facing, man, is that we're being ruled by a bunch of people that don't really represent us. And
right. It's kind of like an oligarch by default, because what happened after World War II, especially in this country, was people just had amassed so much wealth, and then it exponentially increased as we continued to go to war, and they knew where to invest. They knew exactly where to put their money. And you had people that, you know, even back in the 80s were, you know, maybe 100 millionaires or just burgeoning billionaires. There's people now that may have trillions of dollars, and we just wouldn't know it. And it's just gotten to that obscene amount. And it's way more than the 1% having 99% of the world's wealth, which is predicted to happen next year. It's now at the point where you have a lot of people that are inheriting it. So you have a total like upper class of people that basically never want for nothing, and they're not even raised like us, man. They're almost a different species.
the media is out there trying to prop up this King Abdullah guy, and that's one of the articles that we have up on the anti-media right now. Sorry, we're having a little bit of call difficulty here. We do have a caller on the line. I'll get to you in a few minutes. But this is what they're feeding us. They're feeding us in the media that this King Abdullah was a reformer, some kind of guy that stood up for women's rights. I mean, I actually saw an article that said that he helped women in Saudi Arabia, and this is absolutely untrue. But we have to ask ourselves, why are they feeding us this bad information? We're talking about the king of Saudi Arabia that has killed people for adultery, for blasphemy, for fornication, for homosexuality, for witchcraft. I mean, they're still killing people over there for witchcraft. And somehow these are our allies. And we to us, they can do no wrong. And, it's how often do you see Saudi Arabia depicted in a negative light in Western media? Very rare. Because they are one of our allies over there in the Middle East, our quote-unquote allies. But these guys, do just as bad, if not worse, things than many of the people that we claim to be against, like Iran and places like that. I think that the Saudi Arabian regime was more of a rights abuser than the Saddam Hussein regime even. So,
and they actually may have been involved in why we went over there in the first place, right?
Yeah, exactly. And these guys are over there causing a lot of these civil wars, propping up people. And then you remember during the Arab Spring, there was an uprising, an organic uprising in Saudi Arabia. And what happened then? Well, they cracked down on them with the brutal fist. And what did we do?
Yep.
We just turned the other way and let them do it.
That man Qatar.
And it kind of goes along with this selective morality that our government kind of, the rule of thumb for our government is, well, they can only do bad stuff if they're not on our team. And in Israel is one of the perfect examples. Well, Israel sat there and killed 2,000 civilians, Palestinians, in 2014, and the U.S. didn't really lift a finger. In fact, we supplied them with most of the arms and stuff that killed a lot of these people. So it's this selective morality that we have, and our friend John Vibes wrote this book called Alchemy of a Timeless Renaissance, and really he goes into that in depth, and I've been reading this book, and we're going to have him on soon. We had him on a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, but we're going to have him back on because he's able to go so into depth on these topics. But really what it comes down to is this quote-unquote moral policy that our government has, and they use it against us. Okay, you can't do drugs, you can't do all these things, but at the same time, you can't kill people. But at the same time, the government, just the other day, they killed 50 civilians in Syria. And who's being held accountable for that? Nobody. So there's this selective morality, and it runs rampant, and it just goes to show the hypocrisy. Saudi Arabia, one of the biggest rights abusers the world, in the entire world, and they're seen as allies, and the media treats their king as some kind of reformer and some kind of champion of human rights. I mean, that's a complete bullshit slap in the face if I've ever seen one. But these guys have pretty much get away with this crap scot-free. Luckily, we have a guy like Justin King that writes for us at the Anti-Media that is willing to call this stuff out like it should be. And you guys, if you want to see that story, you can read it over on the website, theantimedia.org. But to me, I think the other thing that we need to definitely talk about, because of course his death is just a superficial thing, is what are the geopolitical ramifications going to be, considering that this guy was a big oil player, one of our biggest allies, quote-unquote allies in the Middle East. He was definitely willing to step up to the plate and bomb countries and blow people up and execute people on our behalf. And I wouldn't be surprised if the CIA tortured people inside of Saudi Arabia. And then the other thing we also have to keep in mind is that, many of the supposed 9/11 hijackers from Saudi Arabia, a lot of the extremism stems from Saudi Arabia. So I was wondering what you had to think about that, DB, as far as what his death is going to implicate as far as on the geopolitical level.
I think there's going to be a pretty immediate end to these, superficially low gas prices because, let's be honest, they weren't able to tumble the ruble because they linked up with China, man, and they basically were able to secure their economy going that way, and there's really nothing we can do about that. So it's going to collapse their own economy. They really can't withstand a loss to their income, which is really their only export, and they just can't do it. They really get by being the way they are because they provide their loyal citizens with a lot of benefits, and those benefits are starting to get cut because they were basically not able to fund them. So they were fearing a revolt. They're still fearing a revolt, and that's really the long and short of it. They feel like they got backstabbed in this kind of trade war, this economic war that didn't work. And I think it's a great way to segue into really what's going on in the Ukraine, which is the turning point kind of got hit when Donetsk was pretty much secured by the Russian rebels, and they found some American contractors' bodies, dude. So if you were wondering when the first shot went off, it was sometime in the last 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, Ukraine has been on fire. Now, before we jump into this Ukraine thing, I just wanted to go into this guy that is replacing King Abdullah, which is, I think it was his half-brother, step-brother, something like that. But this guy has a history of abuse as well, and I don't think that we're going to see a lesser, a more moderate regime come into power over in the Middle East because, frankly, the U.S. won't let that happen. The U.S. has no interest in seeing Saudi Arabia become a democracy. We have to keep them as the polarizing lightning rod to keep the Middle East on fire for the military-industrial complex to continue raking in the billions. And to me, that's where this conversation kind of always leads back to, and I think we can tie in the thing that's going on in Ukraine as well. The military-industrial complex is never satisfied, and they're always trying to start up more shit. They're always trying to start up more conflicts. They're always trying to start new wars, frankly, because they get to make a lot of money from them. And that is a horrible, horrible conflict of interest. And, that's one of the things in this country that I think is one of the biggest issues that needs to be put in check and needs to be addressed. But it's really hard to get people to rally around the idea of challenging the military-industrial complex, for one, because they have such good propaganda. Look at the American Sniper movie and what it's done to many of the population. I mean, the nationalism.
And I checked that out today, Nick. I mean, I had to do it if I was going to talk about it. And let me just say, man, I think if this were a reasonable and rational country, I think Clint Eastwood's career is over because that's just an atrocious movie, dude. I mean, that's an affront to respectability and logic. And the fact that a lot of people bought into that hook, line, and sinker, and that was not the real guy. There was no Mustafa Sniper. A lot of this stuff's just completely off base. And it's really telling, man. We really are divided by ideology in this country. We have half of the population that's basically awake or in the process of doing so, and another half that just will not. And I can see that being the rift that they want. Maybe that's the rift they want. Maybe they don't need a racial or class divide. Maybe they simply need enough people that are completely brainwashed that'll go into panic mode and it's over. And that's what I worry about, man. Now, some people are waking up, and is it enough? It's enough to make a dent. Is it enough to bring it down? I have no idea now. But it's dismaying, man, because some of my own friends have seen it, and they're like, whoa, pumped up, gung-ho. I'm like, gung-ho against who? We beat them. We subjugated them. We own them. They're our puppet now. What are you getting amped up about? Who's there left to fight? Well, Russia. See, the programming worked.
Yeah, exactly, man. And it's very much so propaganda. And we might as well go into that now because we've covered this issue extensively. And I'm sure if anybody caught Thursday night's radio show, and keep in mind the Anti-Media Radio is 5 days a week now. If anybody caught Thursday night's show with S.M. Gibson, he's the one that wrote that crazy viral article that basically challenged that entire movie. Thursday night show, you guys can find it either on YouTube or on the website under the archives. But one of our writers, S.M. Gibson, and he's also an editor for us, and he does the radio show as well. He does a lot of stuff with the Anti-Media. He really challenged it, and it angered a lot of people. But, I mean, this article went pretty viral. It got, 200,000, 300,000 shares, and, probably over 500,000 people saw it, read it. And a lot of people were pretty angry, and it really ticked a lot of people off. But the thing that we got to keep in mind is that a lot of this is just propaganda. That's what we got to call it how we see it. It's propaganda. And they make you feel like watching this movie makes you feel like, oh, hell yeah, that's what we should have done. That guy was a hero and stuff like that. It's like, well, the fact of the matter is, and if you want to get down to the basics of this article and what it was challenging, is that, dude, we never had to be in Iraq in the first place. All that stuff that they said about Iraq and how they had weapons of mass destruction, all that crap, and how they were part of 9/11, all of that stuff was just made up, and none of that stuff was true. So, this guy was in there fighting a war based on lies, and it's not surprising. Almost every war that the U.S. gets into is based on a false flag or a lie or whatever you want to call it. And Iraq was no different. ISIS this time around is probably going to be, it's probably no different. I mean, we helped create what is ISIS. We helped make that vacuum. We helped supply the rebels in Syria and helped create that radical Islam movement when we helped fund the Mujahideen back during the 70s against the Soviet Union. I mean, we are responsible. I mean, we created a lot of this stuff.
We're directly arming them now, and that's been proven with airdrops. I mean, people have it on film. It's been proven that Aragon has been giving them some heavier artillery and some mobile weaponry, which our own Air Force is just blasting out of this, blowing them up with airstrikes. But dude, it's a crazy thing over there. It's like this massive proxy battlefield. I'm surprised we haven't seen new toys and weapons being used so far, like laser beams and such. I'm sure that's coming soon, though.
They did run the first run of that new stealth jet fighter. I forget what it was called, but it cost something like $90 million to do one bombing run with it, which is pretty crazy considering that there's only 300 million people that live in the country. So $90 million, I mean, that's a lot of money. And that was to do one bombing run, So this war is costing us billions and billions of dollars. It's going to be one of those things where, I mean, what are we going to do? Yeah, we might bomb and kill a bunch of ISIS fighters. The collateral damage that we're not talking about, that our government and our corporate media aren't talking about, all those kids are going to grow up and they're going to hate America. They're going to be radical. They're going to say, hey, you killed my uncle. That had nothing to do with that shit. And now, you know what? F you. I'm going to go against you too. And so what we're doing over there in Iraq right now in Syria is we're creating a perpetual war for the next who knows how long, while at the same time trying to establish basically a trade route, for these oil pipelines to flow into Europe. And all at the same time, it's all this game. It's a huge game for these guys that are running the show, but a bunch of people are dying. A couple 100,000 people have died in Syria, man, in the civil war. A couple million people have been displaced. They've had to try to, they've become refugees. And the only people making good money on this thing are the military industrial contractors, all these guys that build the weapons and get to try out all the weapons. The poor guys that are in the military, and I mean, it's not their fault they're over there dying, and putting themselves in harm's way over this nonsense war. I mean, most of these guys join the military because they think they're protecting the country.
Well, they feel like they're being invaded, man, because when they're showing the guys that they're having these firefights with, and they're showing them, the corpses, man, they're all like Eastern European guys. There's a bunch of Chechnyan guys and they show, and I mean, it's like they're getting invaded by these crazy radical groups that are armed to the teeth.
It's very much a mercenary type of scenario going on in Syria, and even in Ukraine. I think you're starting to see mercenary groups pop up. Now we do have a few callers on the line. We're going to go to 858 first. Someone in San Diego there. How's it going? You're on the Anti-Media. What do you want to talk about?
Hi, this is Donna from Occupy San Diego. Hello.
How's it going, Donna? What do you want to talk about?
Hey, Donna.
Well, actually, I'm glad I got to listen along for a while because, I could possibly talk on any number of things you've spoken about, but I'm really glad that you're talking about a lot of different interrelated things that are happening in different places. And I thought just to add something even more to the mix, the fact that we know that all kinds of different units are training together in preparedness all over the country in the United States of America. And so you've got military training with police and first responders and et cetera, et cetera. But the interesting thing about this seems to be that they never invite members of the actual public to participate in these drills, leading up to whatever, a potential war or conflict with any of the situations that, you've described earlier. I mean, I don't know what they're preparing for, but I find it interesting that the public is never invited to be an actual member of the public who would be responding naturally. But it seems that the scenario that they're using in these cases is the zombie apocalypse scenario. Now, think about this. If the American public experienced anything that was just beyond what they could handle at Starbucks or on cable, how do you think the public would react? Like, they're preparing, they've said publicly, for civil unrest or an economic decline, just something happening with the stock market crashing again. So, whatever it is they're preparing. But I find it odd that the American public probably would be very much like a zombie apocalypse, quite possibly exactly like one in my the way that I see. I don't mean to laugh. Seriously, it's not funny at all.
Well, it is.
But,
It is kind of funny though.
It would be
well,
so
yeah,
affected by location too.
Yeah. And so I guess what I'm getting at is, you're talking about all this stuff. I mean, there is a lot going on, and we obviously feel this this acceleration into making us accept warlike things or crazy scenarios or, with the American Sniper movie, et cetera. So, I'm just kind of curious what you guys think about all that, like the larger picture, like what is all this propaganda leading to? Because we don't have the full story, like you say, like I travel around the world, and so people say different things in different places. They don't say the same things we say or think in America, and we really don't even know what's going on is the scary thing. So I just wanted your comments on that. Like what do you think is the possible lead up in a larger picture that the global elites are playing for right now? Because they've got a lot going on and it's distracting a lot of people. So what should we prepare for? What should we really be looking at that you think are key indicators of where, they could be going with all this?
I'll let you go first, Nick.
Well, I don't know. That's a pretty big question. I guess, I don't know. I mean, it seems like there's definitely a police state buildup, right? There's a militarization of the police. There's this huge NSA spy apparatus and all this stuff. It's to me, very Orwellian-like, and I kind of see a possible future of a Orwellian-type future where it's not like there's some kind of zombie apocalypse or some kind of apocalyptic comet event or something like that, but more of like just a manufactured, they're just able to scare people into believing that they're so unsafe that they're willing to welcome so much fascist authoritarianism into their lives without resisting, that we're basically slowly creeping into a police state. And it's all the signs to me are there, and I don't think that it'll be anything that actually is an actual thing where it's a huge mass, killing off of people on the planet. What I think it'll be more like is Orwellian, where it's just this total phony proxy war just to expend resources type of thing, just to keep everybody in line, and a permanent class system. And we're pretty close to that already. I mean, we're getting there. We definitely have
that's kind of exactly what I was I was hoping you would get at, because to me it seems like, I keep telling people, read 1984, and I don't know how many people really do, but that is exactly what's happening to us, and people are just sitting there letting it happen. And that's why I'm alluding to like the zombie apocalypse, because when people finally realize that they actually allowed this to happen, I can't imagine being in that state. So it's really hard for people that are activists, where we're trying to wake people up to the fact that they're like a frog sitting in a pot of boiling water, and they're not noticing that they're getting cooked, which, I didn't mean to laugh about that either, because that's really not funny. But that's what it's like. it's like these people are sitting here. We're all seeing this, but yet people aren't moved to act. I mean,
I think, to me, it's like, to me, it's a kind of Orwellian cycle. So, we had the Cold War for the longest time, and finally people were just like, okay, the Cold War is stupid. We don't believe in it anymore. And then it was like, oh, okay, now we got 9/11, and, now it's these terrorists, war on terror. We got to, defeat that. And then people are kind of wary of that stuff. So now it's like, well, back to the Russians, Cold War again. To me, it's like, it's so Orwellian because it's, they just scare the living daylights out of people to like kind of get them in line. And then at the same time, they fight these proxy wars all over the Middle East and all over Africa for the resources. And it basically just, all it does is suck money away from the working people and the fighting aged people. And it keeps them basically at bay. It keeps the proletariat at bay.
And you can only have a proxy war now because we have 3 super states that have a nuclear arsenal that can destroy the world many times over. So you can't have a World War III. And so you're going to have proxy wars forever and ever and ever and ever. Endless wars, dude. War will become the new trade. And it's real, the coffers that you're trying to fill are, drugs and gold and natural resources and oil and all that other stuff.
Just exactly like Chapter 1 of 1984.
So we do have 2 more callers on the line. The first caller is from 424 area code. If you're still on the line, how's it going? What do you want to talk about?
I'm good. Hey, congrats, guys, on the 5 days a week. I'm happy to find some other like-minded people.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, you're in for a great show. SM Gibson and D Young. I mean, they're amazing on the radio. And, and we're actually hoping sooner or later, I mean, we're going 5 days a week now. We may pick up like a few more hours a day too. It may or may not happen pretty soon. So we'll see about that. So we may be doing like 2 hours a day pretty soon, but, hopefully. Anyway, what do you want to talk about?
So there's a number of things I'd like to talk about. But first up, to respond to this recent question, about the divide, the social divide in our nation and around the world, with these debates. Everything is transparent, but, we live in an age of a la carte news feeds, and people can tailor the truth however they want it. And a lot of people are susceptible to the truth, and a lot will reject the truth, even if it's transparent and right in front of them. It's about their own personal comfort. But the way I see things, the way to resolve a lot of these issues is to have open dialogues. We can be civil and actually work on building, reconstructing our structure, our societal structure. Because it's up to us, the people, to actually hold ourselves accountable, because we elected, and the previous generation elected the politicians which are still in power. They've been in power for the past several decades.
Way too long.
Yeah, way too long. And it's up to us to hold ourselves accountable, and we have the right to free assembly. We
also have the right to tell our military what we want them to do, and if enough people tell them we want things changed, then they can do that.
That's very true.
But that's also a dangerous concept too, because then you're talking about borderline military coup and stuff like that.
It's happened before, Nick, and unfortunately, because the banking system has been completely taken over, what's left now?
Oh, it's happened many, many times before. In fact, Egypt's being ruled by a military coup right now, a junta, basically. So, yeah, it still goes on all the time. And, unfortunately, it's sad to say it. The fact is, the U.S. is an oligarchy, and even a military junta it may be an improvement, but it's not something I would want to happen. You know what I mean?
Well, they're the only people that could do anything about it. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm just saying, if we didn't ever demand that from them, then change isn't going to happen, because they've circumvented everything through technology. They're controlling dissent, and they're controlling the vote, man. There's nothing left.
Yeah, man.
And open information. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
Yeah, so open information and education is the key to actually making a dent in our system. But the caveat with that is, nowadays you have a lot of students, and I'm going to keep this stateside. A lot of students here, their circumstances. So they want to go to school, they want to pursue an education, want to pursue a career, and they are forced, to take these loans, these high interest variable loans with a low return on investment. They.
Yeah, I think I think I know what you're getting at, though, man. The education system right now is messed up, and you're paying a bunch of money for not that much worth of true education, but the internet and freedom of information is what is starting to unleash a lot of these ideas of free education and open source learning and stuff like that. And we posted an article on the Anti-Media Facebook page a few days ago. I forget what exactly it was called, but there was like a bunch of websites that gave out resources to get free education from all these different universities and all these different sources and stuff. And like the information is out there, man. And like people in third world, and we've talked about this before on the show, a lot of these people in the third world, and there's billions of them, they're starting to get access to the internet and to information. And a lot of these people that are geniuses that normally would be held down by their environmental factors are going to be able to, the next Stephen Hawking, the next Einstein. I mean, these people are going to come out of the third world just because they happen to have access to the internet and information, and they do some kind of crazy thing, and they get recruited. And this is the age that we're living in, man. All the new ideas that are going to come out that are going to change everything are going to come from the third world, and the internet is what's making all that stuff happen, And that's how we're going to change our education with new ideas, open source information, hybrid classrooms and internet / you have a bunch of students where they all have their own computers and they're learning what they want to learn, but there's like still a teacher there to answer questions if they have questions and stuff like that. I mean,
little kids taking language classes because they can, go to school with people in China and in Latin America at the same time. And they've been learning trilingually since they're like 2 years old. It's some crazy stuff going on right now.
Right. And, our economy has become globalized. And, back home, stateside, we're looking for a lot of positions. There's a huge population of recent graduates that, despite the qualifications, they can't get work. To go a little further, I could talk about the budget. There's this huge debate about introducing free education to the American system, and a lot of other people they ask, where's the funding going to come from? And it should be illustrated that more than 60% of the total budget is allocated towards the military-industrial complex. Now, if only 10% of that budget was reallocated towards education services, we could improve the economy stateside and.
I mean, it's definitely an underfunded part of what the government is supposed to do. The government has got a few jobs that they're supposed to take care of. Now, obviously, they're pretty good at waging war because they spend more than like all other countries combined on it. But when it comes to education, I mean, dude, we spend more money than most countries, and the amount of return that we get is like very low because we've allowed bureaucracy to take over the entire system, and it's no longer run in a logical type of way. So it runs very inefficiently, and that's why it needs like major like fundamental reforms. But these politicians, Republican and Democrat, none of these guys even offer a valid solution. Everything they offer is like putting a Band-Aid on a amputation, and that's basically what these guys offer us. And so to me, the entire economic system, or not the economic system, but the education system, man, it needs to be completely reworked. We do have to move on. We have a few more callers, and I just had to let a caller go because we have too many people on the line. But 941 area code, if you're still there, how's it going? You're on the Anti-Media Radio. What do you want to talk about?
You guys are great. Thank you for basically saying what was on my mind. You covered it all.
Awesome. Well, feel free to just stay on the line if you want to chime in.
Well, I just want to let you guys know that I did try to run for office for Florida State Representative, District 74 in Sarasota County, Florida. And I ran as an independent write-in, and I made 18% of the vote for my first run at age 59. And it's not over for me yet. And I'm still fighting down here in Florida. And believe me, everything you guys just said on the phone is happening in my states. And it's happening in California. California and Florida, they're just going, it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable what's going on. Now, guys, they're fighting over water here. They're fighting over water, the same as Agenda 21 in California. So my question to you, ladies and gentlemen, what do we do to make these people wake up? How do we wake them up?
Well, me personally, man, some of the stuff that I learned in 2014 is that you got to really be personal, make personal connections when it comes to the ideas of like freedom and liberty and all that, because it's nice to be able to talk about this stuff in like a professional environment and kind of a clean-cut way, but at the same time, man, life is about a lot more than just information, right? So what I've found is that like making friends and things like that through these ideas is a good way of expanding your network and meeting new people and getting these ideas out there for more people to learn about.
You're absolutely correct.
So basically, it's community, man. I think it really is. It's community is the way to describe it. Is building.
We need a grassroots third party. If Syriza is going to win in Greece with anti-austerity measures, we can definitely do the same thing here. No more. If they're going to try to do another bailout, like they just legalized it so that they can basically put all the gambles on the $300 trillion derivative market on the U.S. economy, then we should just boot them all out, man. No more. You're all gone. New party.
That's it. You're absolutely right. And I'm trying my best down here in Florida, and I'm still on Robert Samuel Kaplan on Facebook. And please, it's not over for me yet, and I don't know what to do. Right now, I'm just, getting over my campaign and everything, but I'm still delegating, and, I'm doing my job as an independent, and that's all we could do is stand up for freedoms and liberties and keep on fighting, folks. That's all we could do. I mean, the way you guys, I've been on the radio show. I don't know if you heard of PatriotFamilies.com, and I've been debating the issues since 2011. And I graduated from a university in Florida at age 55 with a degree in psychology at age 55. And that's when I decided that I was going to run for office one day. So, but I did it, and I met so many nice people, so many positive people around the whole United States of America. And everybody that's on my page feel the same way that you guys do. It's just unbelievable. We're on the same page, and I just wanted to call in and say thank you.
Yeah, man, it seems like you're building a community down there, and that's awesome. I think we got to work at the local level. That's the most effective way. And to me, it's all about autonomy and decentralization of government, and that's the way of taking away from this overbearing federal government. I mean, if you look back at history in any time, dictatorships, oligarchy, monarchy, every republic, they all turn into the same type of things. That's the situation that we're faced with. So like the answer to that is decentralization, whether we go back to, state level, I think is the minimum. I think that'd be way too conservative of a demand. I think going back to like complete state control and dissolving the federal government, that would be way too conservative. I think we need to dissolve the Federal
Reserve.
I think,
they can't,
I think the federal government should be abolished and the state government should be abolished, and then it should go down to the county level, and every county is autonomous and should be able to decide its own fate, and then I mean,
Oh my Lord.
I don't know, dude. It seems like to me the more you could decentralize it, the more you could prevent these problems that always tend to pop up when you have an over centralization of power, which is, abuses of power, war profiteering, and monopolies and stuff like that. I mean,
Oh,
if the country was broken back down to the county level, I mean, it'd be pretty hard to make big monopolies over things. You know what I'm saying?
but what's happening in my state? Like I ran for District 74, so, which covers half of. There's two counties in Sarasota, two districts in Sarasota County, District 74 and District 72. And what's happening in my county is that the people that are already one state senator is getting ready to leave, and one Florida state representative who has not even been in office for a whole month is already applied for her papers, already applied for the seat, not even in office for a month, already applied for state senator seat. Now, the guy, my opponent that I ran against is an orthopedic surgeon and a lawyer at the same time, and he won the race. There was four opponents. I came in second out of four. So basically, Marco Rubio endorsed him, and he's from. So go figure, right?
Yeah, and then Rubio's being talked about for 2016, and in all from like common sense perspective, Marco Rubio's probably the most electable Republican that exists out there. He's got a horrible record. He's not even. The Tea Party doesn't even support him that much, and you got to remember for the Republicans, those are their turn out the vote people is the Tea Party.
Exactly.
And
but
so,
Jeff,
No, go ahead. No, go ahead, man.
No, but you know where I'm headed with this. You know what I'm saying. But the point that I was trying to bring out is basically Florida is a police state now, number one, and basically what's going on with the distribution of water and having insurance premiums, but the municipalities and the mandates are between the insurance premiums and government controlling the whole thing, right? That same bill is awaiting on Christie's desk in New Jersey. So if these guys are just going to keep on arguing about the water and controlling the small businesses of America, they're trying to cripple small businesses. That's basically what I'm upset about. They're not for small business. None of the Republicans are really not for small business.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, none of these guys are for small business.
Thank you.
They are who they're bankrolled by, and they're all bankrolled by huge corporations like Goldman Sachs. They're like the number one donor, and they're like the public enemy number one. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure Monsanto's not too far behind.
Just get lobbying retermed into corruption, and you'll bring back small business.
We do have another.
Could you say that again? Repeat that again.
I was just going to say, if we're going to call something what it is, if we make lobbying turned into a crime, then the small business will come back.
That's pretty funny.
All right, we have another caller on the line that we're going to have to move on to.
Thank you guys so much. I got to go. I have to go back to work, but thank you for having me.
All right, man. Thanks for calling in.
Bye-bye.
All right, we have another caller on the line from 740 area code. How's it going? You're on the Anti-Media. What do you want to talk about?
Hey, I just want to make one quick point, and it's on the gun issue. I heard a lot about it lately, but I wanted to make one quick point about why I think more guns might give a better solution. And I ask, and I challenge anybody to answer this question, anyone with an open mind. And the simple question is, if you was going to, say, go rob a convenience store, would you rob the one where everybody has a gun or the one where nobody has a gun? And, I mean, that's the simplicity of my opinion and my view on it, is that, I can reasonably understand why more guns sounds like a a really big issue. I mean, it's not, but at the same time, I feel the crime rate would drop. And I mean, I know there's statistics that prove that crime rate does drop, but I mean, it's real. I think it's really as simple as that. I mean, is people are if you want to do a crime, would you do it where everybody has a gun or where nobody has a gun? And ultimately, the answer is going to be where nobody has a gun, because you know you're going to get away with it, or you have better chances of getting away with it.
And are you going to commit a crime using a gun that you're licensed and registered to hold?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Also, logically, it doesn't make any sense if you have people buying guns legally that they're going to go out and do a crime with said gun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everybody buys a gun now because you know, and everyone's registered their own gun. No, that's going to be stupid. Having said that, it would probably be because I always try to look at all sides of everything. Having said that, it would probably be more easier for someone who is going to commit a crime to use a weapon that isn't registered to them, because they might be able to get a hold of one more easier. But then again, having said that, is he really going to walk into the store where everybody has a gun? No, he isn't, because as soon as he pulls the gun on a clerk, 12 other dudes are going to have a gun to his back. I mean, and that's just, I mean, it's really that simple. I mean,
and you know, here's the other thing, man.
I think that way anyway.
Look, if you take Chicago as like the case example, man, Chicago's a perfect example because they have basically the strictest gun laws in the country. I mean, handguns are banned in Chicago city limits. You can't even have a handgun in the city, and they've got like the highest homicide rate out of anywhere. You know,
right.
and so there's a case example there. Of course, those are just some basic shallow statistics, but I think you're definitely you definitely have a point there. You know, the other thing is that recent technological advances with like 3D printing and things like that have allowed people to start printing guns out of, you know, basically out of thin air. And they don't have to have a serial number. They don't have to have any kind of record of people having these guns. And, you know, so then the line is really blurred. But I think the point is that I don't think any government should be disarming any population, because that's not something that the government should even have authority over. I mean, to me, disarmament of the public is just as immoral as the war on drugs. You can't. First of all, you can't tell people what they're going to put in their bodies, and second of all, you can't tell people how they're going to defend themselves.
Right.
And so the government.
That, it's unconstitutional.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the government should have no authority in telling people what firearms or what kind of drugs they're going to use. I mean, both of the war on firearms, the war on drugs, they're like the same thing.
I was just going to say, what would the only logical reason be to disarm us? That the government knows that we could never, no matter how many firearms we have, go against our own military. We'd get wiped out. So the only reason to disarm us is to have our own military fighting somewhere else and a foreign one come in and take us over, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely a big worry because, you know, these guys are worried that the military would turn on, like you were talking about, DB, the military would turn on the government. And I really don't doubt that, because a lot of the guys, I mean, if you look back at the whole foreign policy standpoints, back in the 2012 elections, Ron Paul got all most of the donations from military people, and he was the only one that was anti-war out of the entire, you know, crowd. So that tells you that there's definitely a taste for the anti-war message among the people that are actively, you know, enlisted in the military. Right. So I mean, I think that disarmament, you know, it's just something that people should resist at every opportunity. There's no compromise with disarmament, man. We can't allow these guys to put laws on our arms, but they already are. So I mean, we got a lot to do when it comes to that.
I just want that question to be heard, and people who are against people having guns, who think people shouldn't have guns, I want them to ask themselves that if they can possibly, if they have an open enough mind to put themselves in the place of the criminal and ask themselves, would they rob a convenience store where everyone has a gun or where no one has a gun? They might see why it would be that, you know what I'm saying, like why the person would probably rather not rob the store. And another thing I just want to point out real quick is that a lot of times when I see people debating and trying to prove the point of where there's less guns, there's less deaths and violence by guns. Well, of course there would be. I mean that's like making a point that living in Florida, there's less deaths by black ice. Well, yeah, because it's not snowing and freezing down there. It's just as there would be less death by guns if there are no guns. However, what you really need to look at is the overall crime rate, and it's not depleted any. I mean, if anything, it's risen in those places, and so.
Well, the point I want to make, man, the point I want to make on this whole debate is that if we're going to talk about disarmament, we should talk first about the federal government. And if we're going to disarm anybody, then we disarm the feds, we disarm the cops, and then we can talk.
Yeah.
Because right now, man, because right now it's so hypocritical. I mean, it's like, you know, Obama walking around saying guns are bad, and at the same time being guarded by 30 Secret Service guys with guns. I mean, it's just a complete hypocritical slap in the face, you know.
And on that note, I think another logical reason of why it would be beneficial to disarm us is to reinforce the police states. Now we know it helps the police feel comfortable and confident knowing that nobody that they're going to have a confrontation with has a gun, yet they can automatically assume and presume that the person does, and I don't know, maybe it might justify them getting away with a lot more than what they should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, man, that group down in Texas, the open carry cop blocking group, man. These guys walk around, they film the cops, they're armed, they're carrying, and I mean, these guys are really challenging the status quo down there, and they're making like a lot of the news headlines are coming out, and like two of them got arrested just yesterday. And I mean, this is a group to watch, and I think to emulate around the country. I mean, we got to start challenging these guys head on. I mean, if they're going to be open carrying their pistols on their side, I mean, I think the activists should also be open carrying as well. I mean, we got to go back to the Black Panther tactics and the more radical tactics that people used to use, and really challenge the status quo. Because you know, unfortunately, a lot of this protesting and stuff, you know, it's slowly making a difference, but I think we could challenge it even harder if we went a little more radical with our ways. But I mean, I guess that's up to people to do. And I think looking down there, I forget which local chapter it is, man, but just, you guys could probably find it if you search it. Cop Block Texas Open Carry Group. And I mean, these guys are doing pretty like innovative activism, man. And it's something to watch because it's history in the making. And I think we can bring back those more radical times. Now, we are going to have to move on to the next caller. We have another caller on the line. And Donna, I just want to remind you, if you want to chime back in, you're still on the line here. But we do have another caller from 209 area code. How's it going? You're on the Anti-Media. What do you want to talk about? Okay, I don't think 209 has anything to talk about. So, yeah, let's try to cover a little more of this news because I do have some stories here that we need to talk about. While we're on the whole police state thing, police admit to having these X-ray scanners that can see through walls. I mean, what is up with this stuff?
This is why paint got lead taken out of it, man. Everybody should look into that.
That's an interesting theory, and it's kind of probably true. But I mean, this is just another abuse of, you know, our privacy. And then another police state story. Police have killed 2 teenage girls in the last 4 days. And there's that one peculiar story where I think she was like 16, 17-year-old girl just walked into a police station and then they shot her. And they say that they were threatening someone. So, I mean, it's just crazy how this, you know, people can just get shot so easily in this police state that we've got, you know, that we've allowed to happen, especially after 9/11. I mean, even before 9/11, we all remember the whole Rodney King beatings and everything that happened after that. I mean, the police state's been here for a long time, but it was formalized on 9/11, basically, you know, and that's when the NSA became all powerful and Department of Homeland Security was created and all that stuff. But our next news story here is pretty big. And DB sent me this link about the Greece elections, because this is pretty interesting. In Greece, a supposed radical leftist political party won the majority, or not the majority, but became the largest elected party in Greece, and they formed a coalition government with another party. And apparently they're taking austerity and all the bailouts and all that stuff head on. And for that, I applaud them. But is it really,
Yep.
are they really going to do it, or is it just more
Yes.
rhetoric?
They have to do it. The people aren't going to do it, are not going to do it anymore, man. They just don't care. There's already been riots. They're just, if they don't go through with it or they get blocked, or, I mean, what's Germany going to do? Invade them? They can't do anything. They're just going to collapse the euro. Everything's going to go back to regional currencies, and that's going to be it. And in fact, that kind of strengthens the dollar. So I'm sure this was orchestrated in some weird way.
Well, if you look back and, the communist threat and all that stuff, how many governments did we overthrow in South America and Central America over this whole quote-unquote communist threat? Now, I'm looking here at Greece and I'm saying, okay, well, these are radical leftists. They're not calling them communists. But, I mean, these are radical leftists, and they're willing to defy the banking system, and they're willing to defy the EU. They're willing to defy Germany. I mean, this is prime territory for a false revolution, bro. You know what I'm saying?
It's a rebellion of thought, though. Think about it.
But no. But what I'm saying is that this is prime territory for us, for the UN, for NATO to co-opt it and turn it into actually, we're going to throw out these guys and go back into the euro type of thing. That's what they tried in Ukraine. I mean,
no, they can't do that to Greece, man. They can't do that. Greece is part of Europe proper. It's the seat of civilization, man. Come on. They could never do that. If they do that to Greece, then Spain, Italy, every country basically that's in debt to the euro system will just break off completely. NATO would crumble then. Everything will crumble. So it's just, all it was done was it's going to be making Europe a parasite to America's interests. That's all it's doing.
Yeah, man. I mean, these are crazy times, man. And I'm hoping that what happened in Greece was like true democracy, and it actually, if they can actually take a step in the right direction, because the people of Greece have been suffering for a long time. They've been going through this financial crisis. Their economy has been decimated. There has been a lot of innovation. And so, I'm sure if you go to Greece, it's the standard of living probably isn't like horribly, horribly low, but it's probably, a lot less, especially less than American standard of living, because we got this false bubble because we're the reserve currency and all that. But the innovation down there in Greece has really taken hold, I think, and has shown that even under the thumb of the financial system, the people themselves can like survive and innovate and work their way out of it.
Yep, and that's all we got. That's all we have available, Nick. What's the alternative? It's too horrible to think about, So we got to innovate our way out of this mess and change things, non-violently. Violently is just going to end awfully.
Yeah, man, and it goes back to Martin Luther King, dude. It goes back to Gandhi. It goes back to the nonviolent movements. I mean, you can be very, very radical without having to be violent. And, there's a fine line. But sooner or later, we're going to have to get there to that point. Is Greece getting there right now? I don't know, maybe. Tune into the Anti-Media 5 days a week. Thank you guys for tuning in.
I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.